Welcome in, everybody, to Red, White, and Bills. I got my co-host for the evening or morning or afternoon, whenever you're watching it, my friend Brett from the Go Bills podcast. It's going to be a pretty short one today. We're just going to talk about how we feel about Coach McDermott being the head coach as well as the defensive coordinator. And the reason I thought about, wanting to bring Brett on and talk about this is because I've seen a lot of people just they're overlooking it in a sense, like, oh, it'll be fine. McDermott's a great caller, great defensive minded head coach, and they just brush it off as if it's not important. So I'm going to tell you my opinion first, and I'll hand it over to Brett. So as some of you know, I'm a business owner. I've been a business owner for about 2 years now, and I joke about, like, whenever I have to do the social media presence, like take pictures, take videos before and after, before I post my cleaning jobs. I mean, this is like a second full-time job. And then I start thinking about it. I'm like, that's why I hire and delegate different things to people. So I have a guy who does my website and does my advertising if I need it, and I pay him to do it. So it's something I don't have to worry about. Yeah, so every once in a while I'll take my own pictures and post them. But once I get working, I want to get working. I don't have extra time to, okay, let me make sure this picture's like this and do that and whatever. So then I start thinking about it. Not that I couldn't do it, because I'm a hardworking guy. But then you start thinking about Coach McDermott. Being a head coach is hard enough as it is. And, everybody makes mistakes. We haven't gotten over the hump yet. And then you take a step back and you think, wow, now he's going to be calling a defense and trying to be a head coach at the same time. And then it's way more responsibility. He's going to be stressed out like no other, because it'll be double the work. He's be away from his family even more, I'm sure, because of extra work to put in. And then you start thinking, like, there's way too many things going on in this offseason with the Diggs drama, Chad Hall leaving, Leslie Frazier walking away or being let go or whatever they, respectfully did. And then now McDermott's trying to do two jobs at once. So not that he can't do it. Obviously, he's a great play caller. He has a great history, with Philadelphia and with the Panthers. But I just feel like as a Super Bowl window team, this is way too much going on, and I think it's going to be pretty hard for him to do both. Not that he can't, but it's definitely concerning for me. Like I said, my analogy with being a business owner, I could do the online stuff, but it's double the work. It's more to do it properly. Like, just taking normal pictures and get it done quick, that's fine. But if I want it to be great pictures and great presence on the social media, it takes a lot of work. And then I'll be lacking it. Maybe I'll be lacking my cleaning because I'll be rushing now that I took more time to do social media. And again, I work hard. McDermott works hard, I'm sure. But for me, it's definitely a cause for concern. So, Brett, let me see what you think about Coach McDermott taking on dual roles and how you think it could make or break this year for us.
I think it's going to be a little hard, but I think back to the last 6 years in Buffalo, and that Coach McDermott has had a say in everything that goes on that defense. And I look back and I remember the teams that he had in Philadelphia and in Carolina. I think in Carolina he did a really good job, except for the last year that he was there, where they finished 26th overall in defense. But overall, if you look back to 2012 to 2015, they had a top 10 defense in terms of yards allowed, which is similar to what Buffalo has right now. I think that the defense is only going to get better with Coach McDermott. I think that there's too many voices being heard, and I think that with Leslie Frazier and Sean McDermott, they kind of butt heads a little bit, and that's why I think last year that there's some issues. And I think in terms of what they wanted to run, it was just Leslie Frazier wanted to run something else that Sean McDermott didn't want to run. Now Coach McDermott can run his team. You can see how he does, and you can groom somebody to be the defensive coordinator. We have guys like Al Holcomb, Bobby Babbage, Eric Washington, all on our team that they can grow into that role next year if things don't work out. I don't think that Coach McDermott's going to be let go if things don't go well for his defense. So I think that we have him for a couple more years, especially after him signing a contract extension. I think that it's going to be a couple more years, but you could see a guy like Eric Washington, Al Holcomb, or Bobby Babich, one of them, become the defensive coordinator next year. Or if somebody gets let go, there's guys around the league that could be let go that we could grab as well. So I'm not too concerned about it. I think the defense is going to be better than they were last year. Don't get me wrong. There's a ton of talent on this team. I think that the defense has gotten better overall in terms of depth that we have compared to last year. We've addressed some holes that we had, and you're going to see a defense that's going to come out, and they're not going to make the mistakes that we made last year. And I don't think that we're going to, especially when we get a lead, I don't think that we're going to try and play like prevent defense type of thing. I think that we're going to try and go for the quarterback as much as possible. You're going to see a ton of sacks this year. I think that it's going to be a really good year for Buffalo, and I do think that the Coach McDermott is going to call the plays this year, but I think he's going to turn it over to somebody next year. I think it was just too late based off of everything that happened with Leslie Frazier to decide on having somebody that he could trust to call the plays. And I think it's too early for Eric Washington. I don't think that he's ready. I don't think that Bobby Babich is ready. Al Holcomb, sure, he could have been ready. If you remember back to when Sean McDermott came over to Buffalo, there was talk about Al Holcomb becoming the defensive coordinator, but we brought him in very late this year. I think it would have been a very hard transition to bring him in, especially after Leslie Frazier's announced. It was late, almost into March, when he did announce that he was going to come over. So he was going to leave, but I think it's just the right decision for this year. And next year, who knows? We could see something different happening, and there's a ton of talent on this roster to have somebody groom into the defensive coordinator role.
Absolutely. A ton of great points there. One thing I do want to ask is as good as, the things you mentioned besides his last season with the Panthers, do you feel like it's a lot of change though? So McDermott runs a different style of defense, but it's a whole new continuity thing we got a new middle linebacker, got some new pieces coming in. And then at the same time, you're changing your defense. Do you think it's going to take maybe half the season for everyone to get used to it? Or do you think it's going to be not much different besides being a little bit more aggressive, and then it's going to be a little bit easier to transition to? Because that's what I was kind of thinking is I really admire him that he wanted to take over, in the last minute pinch too. That, that's a good leader. But at the same time, that I was just worried because, it's just a lot going on, and then too much responsibility. And then it's like the whole different changing new wide receiver coaches, and whole scheme's different. And that kind of worries me in a window. But what do you think about, is it going to be such a drastic change where it's going to take us a few weeks to get, into the swing of things? Or do you think it's going to be not much of a difference where week one we could start up and this same old Buffalo Bills defense, just a little bit more aggressive? How do you see it going?
I think it's going to be a more aggressive team. Don't get me wrong. I don't think it's going to take very long. I think that Coach McDermott he had a say in everything that was going on over the last few years. And I think it's going to be a more aggressive team, one that they're going to get to the quarterback. You're going to see different disguises of how they're going to get to the quarterback, with guys like Taylor Rapp coming in as a safety blitz type of thing. And then you're going to see Leonard Floyd be more of a linebacker role, come in and be a rotating guy that comes in and gets a ton of sacks as well. So I think that it's going to be a much better team. If I look back to the last couple of years when Coach McDermott was the defensive coordinator, the last time he was the defensive coordinator, his teams blitzed 24% of the time, which was more than what we've done over the past few years as well. So I think that getting more pressure on the quarterback is going to help, especially for the secondary that we have right now. It's going to help Kaiir Elam. It's going to help Tre'Davious White. And there's going to be a ton of passes that are going to get broken up, as well as a ton of interceptions. So I think you're going to see a lot of sacks this year, number one. You're going to see a lot of pass breakups and interceptions. And it's going to be a really good year for this Bills defense. And then another thing is, I do agree with you a little bit on having Coach McDermott take on a bigger role, especially with the middle linebacker position. But I do think with Al Holcomb coming over, he was more of a linebackers coach. He's going to have a big say in if Dorian Williams or if it's going to be AJ Klein or Terrell Bernard or Tyrell Dodson, whoever's going to be the middle linebacker, there's going to be a say from him. And I think that Dorian Williams is going to be a sleeper pick. He's going to have a really good training camp, and he's going to, if he can hone in and get the defense's play calls under control, and he can make an impact in the preseason, then his job is going to be the middle linebacker position. But that's a lot to ask for a first-year player, number one, to pretty much take over the whole entire defense. But I think the real sleeper is going to be AJ Klein if he can get the job. And I think he will get the job to start the season. But I don't think it's going to take very long for Dorian Williams to take over.
Right. Yeah. Camp's coming up in a couple of days. I think Wednesday, right? So
Wednesday, yep.
At time of recording, it is Sunday. This will probably be viewed by everybody on Monday. But a lot of interesting. We talked about it with Nickel City Mafia. Oh, unfortunately, you weren't able to make it because you got your truck broken down on Prime Week. Unfortunately, so add insult to injury with that. But we talked about how like offensive line is. There's going to be guys we don't want to leave get cut more than likely. Linebacker is tough. You may even see AJ Klein get cut depending on how some of the guys do. And running back, it's really going to be interesting. They might switch it up this year and only have 3 backs and then Reggie Gilliam instead of 5 total. We really don't know how it's going to go. Some pretty good competition coming up. And this is it's a serious question, but then it's just like kind of a conspiracy theory. So do you feel like McDermott was willing to take on an extra role because it's more of like an extra protection in case something goes wrong? Because then they'll be like, well, we didn't get the result we wanted, but then McDermott was doing head coach and defensive coordinator. Do you feel like it was kind of like I don't really think it. I'm just saying, like, for all the conspiracy theories out there, do you feel like it could have been like a safety mechanism, like Saleh with the Jets? If they didn't go after Rodgers and they kept Wilson and he had another 3-win or 4-win year, he probably would have been fired. But he said, okay, now we can all go in and, because people think they're a quarterback away, but really it might go bad. And then Rodgers is done after a year. And then what are you going to do? Then you're stuck with Wilson again. So I just feel like sometimes people do that kind of thing to protect themselves, which is, if it is what it is, then it's fine because you always got to protect yourself. But I just feel like at the beginning of the year, I was more of if McDermott got wild card exit or divisional round exit again, then I think his seat gets pretty hot, and then you got to start thinking, what's he going to do with the rest of his time here? What's his ceiling as a coach? Is he a great regular season coach, wins a playoff game or two, and then that's it? Because some coaches can't get over that hump to get to the Super Bowl or NBA playoff championship or any sport. Sometimes coaches just can't get there. So you start wondering, as great as he is, as great of a coach, leader, mentor, and this people person he is, great for the city of Buffalo, got us out of the drought and, what have you. It's just, you got to start thinking. And I think it makes it harder to think about that now that he's taken on 2 roles. And I think there's potential to be really great this year. I like the idea of a more aggressive defense. And I like some of the people we brought in, like Poona Ford and Leonard Floyd. And I'll be interested to see what happens at middle linebacker and with Taylor Rapp, see what he's going to do. And then when Von comes back, I think everything will start. I don't think it's going to be like Trey White where Von came back or Von comes back and it's slow for half the year and then maybe he picks up in the end. I think whenever he comes back, he'll be fine. But so you don't think it's a conspiracy theory where he's doing it to protect himself a little bit in case things go wrong?
It's not going to be like, I'll put it this way. In terms of insurance ways, it's not going to be like a flood insurance. Okay. Yeah. You have the flood insurance that you get in Florida when the hurricanes come. If you remember, Hurricane Ian came last year. It's not going to be anything like that. That's not what I think it's going to be. It's more of, it was too late to find somebody that he could trust. And that's why he's taking over the play calling duties this year. But if one of these guys gets cut next year, there's a few names that could. I don't want to speculate that because it's way too early. You don't know who's going to be available, who's not going to be available. But if somebody does become available, somebody like even a Jim Schwartz or somebody like that, then that would be a great name to go after and grab if they're available. or you can blossom into having a new guy come in that's on your roster and promote. And that's what the Bills have done recently is they promoted from within. So I think that they will probably promote from within. It'll be Al Holcomb probably taking over. I imagine that's where they're looking at. But it was just too late to make a decision. And with OTAs coming up, it just made more sense for Coach McDermott to take over the play calling duties, keep the defense similar to what they are, and then just go with that for the year. Then next year you can bring somebody in January or February, whatever the case may be, run that team, get the play calling to everybody very early on, and you'll have enough time to make decisions and bring in the right guys that you need to, because you never know if somebody else is going to call the defense, there may be a few other guys that are going to leave too. And you brought up earlier with all the changes that have happened with the Buffalo Bills this year. Change is a good thing. And I think especially with a team where we've had the same head coach for 6 years now, and we've had the same wide receivers coach. We had him for the last 6 years. Bringing in somebody else in that situation and bringing in a new face, maybe to just get a little bit of the confusion that's happening off the table, then that's great to see. So right. I'm okay with some of the changes. I know that I know for sure that Stephon Diggs loved Chad Hall. So I think that kind of hurt a little bit. I was kind of upset when Chad Hall left the Bills, but the guy that we brought in, he was a former LSU coach. I think that the intentions for bringing him in were to lure in Odell Beckham Jr., and that didn't work out. So unfortunately, that didn't work out, and now we're gonna have to sit with him for this year, but we'll see how it goes. I mean, he has a ton of talent too. So
well, it's all interesting, and it'll be exciting to see. Last very quick question. Let's go back to talking about promoting from within. I love the idea, but at the same time, we have to start thinking maybe it's not the best thing, because they may all be good coaches or seem like great coaches, but you're completely blocking off everybody else out there who's potentially an option because you want to promote from within, which I understand. But at the same time, this is what I mean. It's like, it's only how far are we going to go if things not working until we're like, okay, well, we could have had Bieniemy instead of Dorsey, but we stuck with Dorsey because Josh Allen likes him. Not that I hate Dorsey or anything, but it's like things like that. So right. Not that Bieniemy's like the best in the world, but he was a great option who had a rapport because of, we'll see this year, but you can argue because of who he had with him. But that's kind of how like I feel about Daboll. Daboll had a terrible career. Then he got Josh. Josh was bad, and then Josh was good. So people think he's only good because of Daboll, but they discount everything he did with Palmer in the offseason, everything he did on his own, and stuff that Daboll didn't do. So I feel like part of me likes the idea of promoting from within, the camaraderie and the team building and everything. But at the same time, there's a great person out there. Why block them off for promoting from within? So do you think that's something that Bill should consider next time around for a defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator? Because Dorsey could get a job this year because he had head coach offers last year. So let's just say another thing changes and then we lose him again. So you lose coordinator after coordinator every year, and you're a Super Bowl winning team, possible winning team. And like you look at the other teams and how often do they flop coordinators and coaches? That's why it's like, to me, we're losing too many things, too many missing pieces, too many things changing, a lot of shit. So
right.
I know I'm rambling, but how do you feel about very quickly promoting from within? And do you think it's foolproof, or do you feel like maybe you should start considering branching off a little bit from within and seeing what else is out there?
Well, I'll bring up the Ken Dorsey case, because I think before Josh Allen's UCL injury, I do think that Ken Dorsey would have gotten head coaching consideration, because if you look at what the Bills offense did over the first few weeks of the year, they were doing an excellent job. They were one of the best teams in the NFL, spreading the ball around. But I think that Josh's UCL injury, it really limited what he could do out there on the field. And I think that towards the end of the year when he did get healthy again, then it was a different story. But this is going to be year 2 of Ken Dorsey. I think he's going to expand his play calling ability, only going to get better. But the problem is, compared to the defense, what we have out there, we don't really have another option to promote from within. The only guy that I could really think of is Joe Brady that could be a possibility of promoting from within. I'm not even sure if he's still on the roster. I don't even think he's on the roster anymore.
I think he is, though.
I think he left this year to take on a offensive coordinator position in the college football. So he might not even be on the roster anymore. And then if you look at other people on the roster, we really don't have anybody else. So I think that the option, if there's a situation where Ken Dorsey leaves next year, we're gonna have to look outside the team. And I mean, there might not be a lot of options. You know, there's gonna be guys like, if Kellen Moore doesn't work out in LA, that could be an option there. Or, you know, but the problem is Kellen Moore doesn't like to run the ball.
So. I kind of like it. He's kind of trash anyway.
And he is, I'm not gonna lie.
But hopefully we don't have to worry about any of that, because I do feel like there's a point where some people have put over a Super Bowl over possible head coach. I think that's what Daboll did for the last time. Then he's like, oh, I don't want to keep waiting anymore. And then I think, honestly, I don't think Dorsey's ready to be a head coach, if I'm being frank with you. I mean, This is his first time being an offensive coordinator. So just that'd be insane if he had 1 year of offensive coordinator experience and all of a sudden was a head coach. So I think not only will he want another year of experience, but I think he'll, just like I thought Daboll did, kind of did, want to see it through. Again, some people, I guess you can't really say what they think, but I feel like that's how some coordinators feel. It's less risk, as being a head coach, because if you screw up being a head coach once or twice, you may not get a second chance. Definitely get another chance, but after that, I guess it'd be technically a third chance. So you get one go. If it doesn't work out, usually get a second, and then after that, and that's why I think Leslie Frazier stuck with being a defensive coordinator, because he realized that and did a pretty good job at it. So a lot of interesting things going on. I'm excited for training camp, and this, like I said, this is recorded on Sunday, and our friends over at Nickel City Mafia are actually interviewing the guy who got stuck on the plane with McDermott, and they're recording tonight, Sunday night. So if you're seeing this Monday and you haven't went over there and subscribed and watched that video, I'm sure it's going to be amazing. I will wait till tomorrow to watch it, because I have work tomorrow and I like to listen to things while I work. But I'm sure Brett will tune in. Oh, it's already going on right now at 9:00. So
definitely,
we're going to wrap it up so Brett can go watch. And again, subscribe to Brett, Go Bills Podcast. Brett, do you got anything going on this week you want to mention before we head out?
Yeah, we got a few shows going on this week. We're going to do a couple of shows, top 5 rookies that are going to be that could make the NFL rosters, whether that's the Buffalo Bills or it's another team. Could very well, it could be somewhere around the NFL that they go. We're going to look at the top 5 rookies that can make an impact on a team. Then we're going to talk about the top 5 veterans that can make the Buffalo Bills roster, and some that have a lot to prove so far. Then we're going to talk about the top 5 games in Highmark Stadium history. And then we're going to do a little analysis of the 90s Bills, comparing them to the current team that we have, starting off the series with Jim Kelly and Josh Allen. So if you haven't, go ahead and go on our YouTube channel, subscribe to us, and also go on our website, gobillspodcast.com, where you can see all of our upcoming shows that we're going to be doing this week. And you may see a familiar face in Sean or Jake and Mike from Nickel City Mafia.
Beautiful. Yeah, everybody go. I'm sure everybody that follows me is following Brett, but if you haven't, please go to Go Bills Podcast. He puts a ton of work and effort into this. He does a great job. Love working with him and Nickel City Mafia. Also, I haven't announced it yet, but Brett is going to be my new co-host for Weekly Picks this year. Obviously, it's a few months away, but my friend Nando, he had a really busy schedule, and it was, he felt bad, but it was hard for him to come in week for week. I don't want to put too much on his plate. And, it was a great time, but I know Brett will have that availability open for the slot. So it'll be fun. Every week we'll add up, and maybe at the end of the season, whoever wins will do something fun, and, it'll be interesting. So that'll be on Wednesdays because we'll start for the Thursday games, and then then pregame, postgame, weekly picks, and then we'll see what goes from there. But like I said, subscribe to Go Bills podcast. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and then Brett, appreciate you coming on. Go Bills, and check out Brett's content the next coming week.
Go Bills. Yeah, I want to say one quick thing before I wrap it up, though. Don't forget to go on over to the AFC East Summit as well. We have a show coming up on Tuesday. We're going to be looking at the starting 11 for offense. So we're going to be doing it's the current players on the making a team on the starting 11 for offense. So that's going to be a great show coming up on Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So go ahead and go on over to the AFC East Summit as well and check out our videos that we have going on this week too.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you for reminding me, Brett. AFC Summit. It's awesome. Keith, Chris, and then there's a couple of Jets people that Jackson and someone else that Dom
yeah.
that flop around. And I haven't made an appearance on it yet, but Brett, Mike, and Jake have been awesome, and it's great. So if you haven't gone over there either, definitely go over there and give it a subscribe and a like. We appreciate you guys. Until next time, go Bills. And again, thanks, Brett. Appreciate you.
Go Bills.